Before we run this clip of Michael Parenti, who is a political scientist and author known for his critical perspective on capitalism and imperialism, might approach the question of who pays the national debt from a socio-political lens. He argues that the burden of the national debt is disproportionately borne by ordinary citizens, particularly the working class and marginalized communities, while the benefits primarily accrue to the wealthy and powerful. Now, off to this wonderful clip of Michael Parenti.
Given that the U.S. is borrowing $2 billion a day to keep this empire going, do you ever see us running out of money?
You mean the rulers running out of money? Well, that's the goal. The goal is to run out of a lot of money. Bush is building up this massive deficit. Now, that's very functional. What he's doing is borrowing money from the people he should be taxing. He's cutting the taxes of the rich, and then he's borrowing from them. A national debt like that is an upward redistribution of income. We have to pay for that debt. That $7 trillion belongs to us. Every year this government has been running a deficit. What's a deficit? A deficit is when the government spends more money than it takes in taxes. How can it do that? It does that by turning around and borrowing money to make up the difference, to pay the deficit. And who does it borrow from? It borrows from rich bankers, big rich foreign investors, and others. A small portion of that comes from the people themselves. If you buy savings bonds or something, you got a tiny little piece of this enormous debt. Who has to pay that debt? The national debt is the accumulation of these yearly deficits. That's what the debt is. So what you're getting is this enormous debt that we, working people, owe to the rich creditors. It's an upward redistribution to them. The other function of that enormous debt is that it becomes an excuse for not having to have a big public sector. You can cut human services. He's already saying that. We've got to cut. We've got to cut because we have such a big deficit. I want to reduce the deficit. He's already cutting $50 billion from luxury, from stupid luxury things like infant feeding programs and disability insurance and things like that. You know, frills that we don't really need. Certainly, he and members of his class don't need those things. So they don't care that we're going and we're spending and spending and spending. That's one of the goals.
Parenti contends that policies surrounding the national debt often prioritize the interests of financial elites and corporations over those of the general population. He criticizes the way in which debt repayment is used as a justification for austerity measures, such as cuts to social services and public spending, which disproportionately affect the most vulnerable members of society. Furthermore, Parenti argues that the mechanisms through which the national debt is financed, such as through government bonds and interest payments to financial institutions, serve to enrich the already wealthy while perpetuating economic inequality. He also highlights the role of imperialist ventures and military spending in driving up the national debt, benefiting defense contractors and other vested interests at the expense of taxpayers. Overall, Parenti's perspective on who pays the national debt emphasizes the structural inequalities inherent in the capitalist system and the ways in which these inequalities are perpetuated and exacerbated by government policies and economic priorities. Well, I hope you like the video and give the channel a subscribe. Please be sure to check out my past videos. There are over 260 videos on the channel, and you may be interested in them. Thank you. Also, make sure to subscribe to my other channel, Progressive Movement. Link is on the homepage and in the comments section. Now, take care and bye-bye.